The credit card bounced for the fourth time in the luxury boutique, and as the salesgirl's polite smile turned into a sneer of pity, Funk looked at the husband she had bragged about to 50,000 followers and saw a bead of sweat tracing a path through his expensive, unearned foundation. "The network is bad," Sigan stammered, but Funk knew the network was fine, it was their life that was disconnected. The story begins in the high-octane world of Instagram influencers in Lagos. Funk was the queen of content, a woman whose feed was a curated masterpiece of private jets, 5-star brunches, and a romance that seemed scripted in heaven. When she married Sigan, a man who claimed to be a global logistics consultant, her followers tripled. Their wedding was a viral sensation, the gold-plated cake, the international artist, and the fleet of white G-Wagons that escorted them through the streets of Lekki. Sigan was the perfect Instagram husband. He was always dressed in bespoke suits, his wrists heavy with watches that cost more than most people's houses. He was quiet, mysterious, and seemingly infinitely wealthy. He bought Funk a house in Banana Island, or so he said, and constantly surprised her with investment properties in Dubai and London. Funk spent her days filming Day in the Life of a Billionaire's Wife videos, never noticing that she never actually saw the deeds to the houses or the statements for the bank accounts. Suspense began to build when Funk realized they were always moving. Sigan would claim their Banana Island mansion was undergoing specialized fumigation or security upgrades, leading them to stay in expensive boutique hotels for weeks at a time. When Funk asked why they couldn't just move into another one of their properties, Sigan would explain that they were all currently leased to high-net-worth expatriates. He had an answer for everything, delivered with a calm, persuasive charm that made Funk feel small-minded for questioning him. The first real crack in the gold plating appeared on a rainy Tuesday. Funk was at a high-end salon in Ikoyi when a woman she didn't recognize approached her. "You're Sigan's wife, right?" the woman asked, her eyes darting around nervously. "Tell him that the owner is back from London early. He needs the keys to the Bentley by tonight, or there will be trouble." Funk laughed it off, assuming the woman was confused or a hater, but the seed of doubt was planted. Why would a logistics consultant need to return keys to an owner? That night, Funk went through Sigan's briefcase while he was in the shower. She didn't find contracts or investment portfolios. She found a leather-bound logbook. It wasn't a business ledger, it was a vehicle movement schedule. It listed the names of some of the wealthiest men in Nigeria, their flight arrival times, and the cars assigned to them. Next to the name Chief Okoro, she saw a chilling note in Sigan's handwriting: "Chief away in UK for 3 weeks. Bentley and Lekki guest house available for private use starting Monday." Funk felt the world spinning. The billionaire who had swept her off her feet wasn't a consultant, he was a high-end driver and house manager for the elite. He hadn't bought the G-Wagons, he had borrowed them from his employer's garages while they were traveling. The Banana Island lifestyle was a series of temporary squattings in guest houses he was supposed to be maintaining. Their entire marriage was a limited-time offer that was about to expire. She looked at her phone, at the 50,000 people who envied her life. She had built her entire identity on a lie that she hadn't even checked for herself. She realized that the price of fame was about to become the price of shame. As the shower stopped and Sigan stepped out, humming a song and wearing a silk robe that probably belonged to a senator, Funk realized that the most dangerous thing in Lagos isn't a thief in the night, it's a man with a set of borrowed keys and a dream of being someone else. Funk sat on the edge of the bed, the logbook heavy in her hands, watching Sigan dry his hair with a fluffy towel that bore the embroidered initials of a man who wasn't him. The room, a luxurious suite in a boutique hotel, suddenly felt like a stage set whose lights were about to be cut. "Sigan," she said, her voice sounding like it was coming from a great distance. "Who is Chief Okoro?" The towel froze. Sigan didn't turn around immediately. The silence stretched until it was almost painful, the only sound being the hum of the air conditioner. When he finally faced her, his expression wasn't one of guilt, but of a man who had been rehearsing for this moment his entire life. "He's a client, Funk. I told you, I handle logistics for high-net-worth individuals." "Logistics?" Funk stood up, throwing the logbook onto the bed. "Is that what we call it now? Driving their cars while they are on vacation? Living in their guest houses like a squatter?" "Sigan," I looked at the schedule. "You aren't their consultant. You're the help." Sigan's face transformed. The smooth, global billionaire mask cracked, revealing a raw, desperate ambition. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to get into those rooms, Funk? To even touch the keys to that life?" He stepped toward her, his voice a frantic whisper. "I didn't lie to you. I showed you what was possible. I used my access to give you the life you wanted. You wanted to be an influencer. I gave you the background. You wanted the world to envy you. I gave them something to look at. You gave me a life that belongs to Chief Okoro." Funk screamed. "What happens when he comes back tonight? What happens when my followers find out that the private jet photo was taken while you were cleaning the upholstery for a senator?" The suspense intensified when a loud, authoritative knock echoed at the hotel room door. It wasn't the soft tap of room service. It was the heavy, rhythmic pounding of someone who owned the building, or the man inside it. Funk and Sigan froze. "Sigan," a booming voice shouted from the hallway. "I know you're in there with the keys to the Bentley. Open this door before I call the police." It was Chief Okoro's head of security. The owner wasn't just back, he was furious. Sigan scrambled for his clothes, the silk robe falling to the floor like a shed skin. He wasn't a billionaire anymore, he was a man looking for a window to jump out of. Funk watched him, a cold realization settling in her gut. She had been so focused on the lifestyle that she had ignored the man. She had married a reflection, and now the mirror was shattering. "Hide in the bathroom," Sigan hissed, grabbing his trousers. "I'll handle this. I'll tell them I was just checking the interior." "No," Funk said, picking up her phone. She looked at the screen, at the notification of 5,000 new likes on her latest post about manifesting wealth. She realized that she was just as much of a fraud as he was. She had manifested a driver and called him a king because it suited her brand. She walked to the door, her hand trembling on the latch. "Funk, don't," Sigan pleaded. But she turned the handle. She was done living in a guest house of lies. As the door swung open, revealing two large men in black suits and a very angry Chief Okoro, Funk didn't hide. She stepped into the hallway, the harsh fluorescent lights exposing every flaw in her unearned foundation. Chief Okoro didn't even look at Funk. His eyes were fixed on Sigan, who was cowering near the bedside table, clutching a pair of borrowed cufflinks. "You," the chief growled, his voice vibrating with the authority of a man who actually owned the ground everyone was standing on. "I pay you to maintain my fleet, not to sleep in my sheets. Where are the keys to the Bentley?" Sigan fumbled with his pocket, producing the key fob like it was a live grenade. The chief security detail stepped forward, snatched the keys, and began a rapid sweep of the room, tossing Funk's designer bags, mostly knockoffs she'd bought to match the billionaire aesthetic, into the hallway. "You have 10 minutes to clear out of this hotel," the chief said, turning his gaze toward Funk for the first time. "I don't know who you are, young lady, but you should be careful about the logistics you choose to follow. This one leads straight to a jail cell for criminal trespass." As the door slammed shut, leaving them in a room that was no longer theirs, the silence was heavier than the chief's voice. Funk looked at the mess of her life scattered on the floor. The suspense wasn't about whether they would be arrested, it was about the sudden, violent death of her ego. Her phone buzzed in her hand, a notification for a collaboration request from a luxury jewelry brand. They wanted the billionaire's wife to model their new collection. "What are we going to do?" Sigan whispered, his bravado completely extinguished. "I can get a job at another firm." I still have contacts. Contacts. Funk laughed, a jagged, hysterical sound. Sigan, you're blacklisted. You didn't just borrow a car, you borrowed a life. And you used me as the billboard for your theft. She looked at her phone again. She had a choice. She could delete the app, disappear into the shadows of Lagos, and live with the shame. Or she could do something Sigan never had the courage to do, tell the truth. She sat on the floor, right there in the middle of the chaos, and opened her Instagram live. Funk, what are you doing? Sigan panicked, reaching for the phone. Don't tell them. We can pivot. We can say we were robbed. No more pivots, Funk said, pushing his hand away. She hit the Go Live button. Within seconds, the viewer count jumped, 500, 1,200, 3,000. People were used to seeing her in sunset-drenched infinity pools. Instead, they saw her sitting on a cheap hotel carpet, her makeup streaked with tears, with the sound of security guards shouting in the background. "Hello everyone," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "For the last year, I have lied to you. My husband is not a billionaire. He is a driver. This room is not ours. These bags are empty. I am not the Queen of Lekki, I am a victim of my own greed and a man's hollow promises." The comment section exploded. "Is this a prank? I knew it was too good to be true. LMAO, Lagos big boys are all the same." The vitriol was instant and stinging, but for the first time in years, Funk felt the weight on her chest start to lift. She wasn't just exposing Sigan, she was deconstructing the comparison trap she had helped build. The educational lesson here is a harsh reality check. When you marry for the background, you often forget to check the foundation. In the digital age, we have become obsessed with the aesthetic of success, the cars, the labels, the location tags. But an aesthetic is not a lifestyle. If you don't know the source of a man's wealth, you are not his wife, you are his accomplice in a fantasy. The viewer count on the live stream hit 10,000. People were screen recording, sharing the link to WhatsApp groups, and tagging famous gossip blogs. Funk watched the numbers climb with a mixture of nausea and relief. Sigan had retreated to the corner of the room, covering his face with his hands. He was no longer the global consultant, he was a man whose greatest fear, being seen for exactly who he was, had just come true. "I am showing you this because I don't want another girl to end up here," Funk continued, her voice gaining strength. "I was so obsessed with the soft life that I didn't ask the hard questions. I didn't ask to see a bank statement. I didn't ask why we never stayed in the same house for more than a month. I accepted the lies because they looked good in my photos." Suddenly, a hotel security guard entered the frame. "Madam, you have to go. Now." He grabbed one of her suitcases and pushed it toward the door. Funk didn't stop the stream. She walked out into the hallway, filming the reality of her eviction. The glamorous influencer was now a woman with 2 mismatched bags, standing on a sidewalk in Ikoyi at 10 p.m., waiting for an Uber that she had to pay for with the last 5,000 naira in her account. The aftermath was a digital wildfire. By the next morning, Funk was the #1 trending topic on Twitter. The memes were brutal. People posted side-by-side photos of her private jet post and a screenshot of the driver's logbook. She was labeled the Bentley beggar and the logistics queen. Every brand that had been negotiating with her sent a formal email terminating their relationship. She went from the it girl to a social pariah overnight. But something else happened. In her DMs, tucked away between the insult and the mockery, were messages from other women. "Funk, my husband says he's in oil and gas, but he never goes to an office. I'm scared, or I've been faking my life for 3 years to keep up with people like you. Thank you for stopping the clock." Funk realized that her billionaire husband wasn't an isolated case, he was a symptom of a culture that values the appearance of wealth over the process of earning it. She moved back into her parents' small apartment in Yoba. There were no marble floors or gold-plated faucets here, only the smell of her mother's cooking and the sound of neighbors arguing. Sigen tried to call her, pleading for a rebrand. He suggested they go on a reality show as the scam couple. Funk blocked his number. She didn't want a rebrand, she wanted a rebirth. The educational lesson of this part is about social proof versus financial truth. We often use social proof, what others think we have, as a substitute for financial truth, what we actually have. When you marry someone based on their image, you are essentially buying a stock without looking at the company's debt. In a world of filters, the most premium thing you can possess is a life that doesn't require a script. Funk's life in Yoba was a jarring return to the ordinary, but the silence of the neighborhood gave her something the noise of Lekki never could: clarity. She spent her days not in front of a ring light, but in front of her mother's old ledger, helping the woman manage her small grocery business. She realized that while she had been influencing the thousands, she couldn't even balance a simple balance sheet. The suspense of her story shifted from, will she be caught, to, will she survive the shame? In Lagos, shame is often treated like a contagious disease. Old friends blocked her. People she had helped build their own platform suddenly didn't know her name. However, Funk started a new series on her decimated Instagram page, titled The Cost of the Lie. She began breaking down the math of her former life. The private jet photo cost 50,000 naira for a 20-minute stationary shoot on a grounded plane. The luxury bags rented for 10,000 naira a day from a closet concierge. The Dubai trip, a green screen edit of photos taken at a high-end resort in Ape. As she exposed the mechanics of the fake life, her following began to grow again, not for the envy she inspired, but for the truth she told. She became a consultant for young girls, teaching them how to spot the drivers masquerading as billionaires. She taught them the 3-check rule before getting serious with a man. 1. The office check: does he have a physical place of work you can visit unannounced? 2. The family check: have you met his people in their natural environment, not a rented hotel? 3. The paper check: does he show you the process, or just the result? One afternoon, Funk was sitting at a local bookstore when a silver Mercedes pulled up. Her heart skipped a beat, the old Lekki instinct kicking in. Sigen stepped out. He looked different, his bespoke suit was gone, replaced by a simple polo shirt and jeans. He looked like a man who had finally stopped running. I'm working for a genuine logistics company now, he said, standing by her table. I'm an actual dispatcher. I don't own the bikes, and I don't own the cars. I just move the packages. He looked at her, his eyes lacking the frantic spark of the global consultant. I saw your videos, Funk. You were right. The borrowed silk was choking me. Funk didn't get back together with him, but she gave him a nod of respect. They had both been addicts of the great Nigerian dream, the one where you jump from the gutter to the penthouse without climbing the stairs. The educational lesson of this story is a final warning: character is a currency that never devalues, but status is a bubble that always bursts. If you build your relationship on a foundation of looking good, you will eventually have to deal with the ugly truth. Authenticity is the only thing that doesn't require a filter. The story of the billionaire driver is a cautionary tale for the digital age. It reminds us that behind every perfect life on a screen, there is a real human being with a real bank account and real struggles. When we stop comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, we reclaim our power.